The nomads stick mostly to their religion due to the cold and harsh winter. But how do people in the city, with central heating, shopping malls, iPhones, deal with spiritualism? I've come to Mongolia on a kind of spiritual journey to find out how all these religions fit into this fast developing nation. It is indeed a religious melting pot here. But let's start with shamanism. In the good old days of their great leader Genghis Khan, back in the 13th century, this nomadic culture was mainly based on shamanism. And it had been for thousands of years. Zoribata is Ulaanbaatar's go-to shaman, holding rituals for locals and tourists. And he believes it still has place in modern Mongolia.
Technique, технологи бөө мөргөлийг зогсоож чадахгүй. Яагаад чадахгүй бэ гэхээр хүн бол аюу ухаантай учраас энэ бол одоо техникээс хүчтэй. That was an extraordinary experience. But you can't help wondering if shamanism will be pushed out by modern life. After all, it has happened before. In the centuries that followed, the death of Genghis Khan, a strong competitor to shamanism, blew over Mongolia from Tibet, Buddhism. Slowly but surely, this new form of spiritualism became the country's biggest religion. And even today, it's said that 50% of the Mongolians are Buddhists. And there are rumors the Dalai Lama himself wants to turn Mongolia into the Buddhist center of the world. So what's the secret of this religion's success?
Буддийн шашны хөгжлийг бол би цаашдаа бол хөгжинө гэж бодож байгаа. Яг тэгвэл монголчууд өөрсдийнхөө олон жилийн шашныг цааш нь хөгжүүлэх авч явах тийм итгэлтэй, оюун санааны тийм чадaltaй байгаа гэж бодож байгаа.
It could have been a very different story though, because in the 20th century the light of Mongolian Buddhism was almost extinguished altogether. But the threat this time was not another religion. It was a brutal political ideology. The rush to rid themselves of Chinese rule drove Mongolians slowly but surely into the hands of the Soviets. But in the 1930s, only one belief was allowed, Stalinism. And the result for Buddhism was devastating.
They destroyed the monasteries, they slaughtered many thousand monks. And by end of the 1930s, no Buddhist monastery was functioning at that time.
All religion was squashed under the boot of communism for almost the 20th century. In 1990, Mongolia fought its way into independence. Many Mongolians returned to Buddhism, some to shamanism, but others started to look to the West and found Christianity. Including the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, although you might know them as the Mormons. The Mormon Church, like Christianity as a whole, was established in Mongolia in the early 90s. But its initial appeal was about more than just the religion.
When LDS missionaries, full-time missionaries, came to Mongolia, it was totally new thing. Two handsome American elders with white shirt and tie coming to Mongolia and starting to talk, that was something we never experienced before.
After decades of communist rule, Mongolia now prides itself on freedom of religion. But does that apply to all religions here? Muslims are very hard to find in Mongolia. In fact, we had to drive more than 1 hour out of Ulaanbaatar to find a mosque where we could do some recordings. This is the mosque in the town of Naleh, where around a third of the population are Muslims, descendant from Kazakhs who arrived in the country centuries ago. But are they accepted in modern-day Mongolia?
There's some member of parliaments concerned about Islamization of Mongolia. So I think still that kind of concern among the MPs or maybe among the peoples are there.
Despite these concerns, there's no doubt that Mongolia is today a religious melting pot. But can these religions survive in the face of a country that is rapidly being westernized?
Mongolia is at an important crossroad with so many questions still to be answered. But the big question is, will shopping overtake spiritualism, and will the new god be a smartphone? Oh, excuse me.
Đâu vấn đề của